Your grandfather worked 16 hours a day in a factory. Your mother cleaned houses until her knees gave out. Your neighbor drives 3 jobs just to pay rent. Yet the person who inherited Daddy's real estate empire never worked a single honest day but owns half your city. This is not an accident. This is not bad luck. This is the exact outcome of a system that rewards manipulation over muscle, politics over productivity, and connections over competence. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this lie 2 centuries ago. He called it the greatest deception ever sold to the working class. The belief that hard work equals reward. The fantasy that moral labor leads to moral outcomes. But here is what nobody tells you about why the hardest workers earn the least. The game was rigged before you even learned the rules. Your sweat does not determine your salary. Your hours do not dictate your wealth. Your dedication means nothing to the people who control the money. The construction worker breaks his back building mansions he will never afford. The nurse saves lives for less money than the consultant who tells hospitals how to cut costs. The teacher shapes minds, while the cryptocurrency speculator who produces nothing buys his 3rd sports car. Why? Because society taught you that working hard makes you virtuous, that struggling makes you noble, that accepting less money for more effort makes you a good person. Subscribe now, because what comes next will destroy everything you believed about work, money, and success. The truth about why your labor is undervalued is darker than you think. If you do not understand why hard work does not equal wealth, you will spend your entire life as a willing slave to people who produce nothing but profit from everything. You will die poor while calling yourself moral. You will sacrifice your body for their bank accounts while they convince you that your poverty proves your virtue. The hardest workers earn the least because the system needs them to believe that their suffering has meaning, that their sacrifice matters, that someday, somehow, their dedication will be rewarded. This is the lie that keeps millions of people working themselves to death for scraps, while a tiny elite accumulates wealth they could never spend in 10 lifetimes. Nietzsche understood something about human nature that modern workers refuse to see. People who claim to value hard work the most are often the ones who do the least of it. The wealthy convince the poor that poverty is virtuous. That struggle builds character. That working multiple jobs shows moral strength. Meanwhile, they designed systems where money makes money without any human effort at all. Your boss praises your work ethic while paying you the minimum possible amount. Politicians celebrate essential workers while ensuring their wages stay low. Society calls you a hero for breaking your back, while the people who own everything never lift a finger. This is not hypocrisy. This is strategy. Rich people need poor people to believe that working hard is its own reward. Otherwise, workers might start asking uncomfortable questions, like why the person who stocks shelves works harder than the person who owns the store, but makes a fraction of the profit. The construction worker who builds luxury condos cannot afford to live in them. The chef who prepares expensive meals eats ramen at home. The janitor who cleans office buildings where million-dollar deals happen takes the bus because he cannot afford a car. But society tells these workers they are noble, that their labor has dignity, that they should be proud of their honest work. Proud of what exactly? Proud of making other people rich while staying poor themselves. The hardest workers earn the least because they were taught to measure success by effort instead of results. They were programmed to feel guilty about wanting more money. They were convinced that asking for fair compensation makes them greedy. Nietzsche called this the transvaluation of values, the complete reversal of what matters. In a rational world, the people who produce the most value would earn the most money. The farmer who grows food would be wealthier than the banker who shuffles numbers. The doctor who saves lives would earn more than the hedge fund manager who bets on companies failing. But we live in an inverted world where the most essential work pays the least and the most parasitic behavior pays the most. Teachers educate the next generation for poverty wages, while social media influencers earn millions for dancing in front of cameras. Paramedics save lives for less money than day. Traders who gamble with retirement funds. Scientists who cure diseases earn less than celebrities who sell overpriced water. The harder your job is, the more physical effort it requires, the more essential it is for society, the less money you will make. This inversion is not natural. It was engineered. Wealthy elites realized that if they could convince workers that money does not matter, those workers would accept terrible pay while feeling good about themselves. If they could make poverty seem noble, people would choose it voluntarily. So they created myths. The myth of the honest worker, the myth of blue-collar virtue, the myth. The true fulfillment comes from service, not success. Meanwhile, they taught their own children exactly the opposite. That money is the only thing that matters, that wealth equals freedom, that the goal of life is to make as much money as possible while doing as little real work as possible. The result? Two completely different worlds operating by completely different rules. The working class believes that character matters more than cash. The ruling class knows that cash is the only character that counts. Smart people often earn less than dumb people with better connections. The brilliant engineer who designs life-saving medical devices earns less than his manager who does nothing but attend meetings. The gifted programmer who builds the software everyone uses makes a fraction of what the salesperson who sells it earns. Intelligence without strategy is slavery. Knowledge without leverage is poverty. The smartest people often become the hardest workers because they can see exactly how to solve complex problems. But solving problems and getting paid for solving problems are two completely different skills. While the intelligent person focuses on doing excellent work, the clever person focuses on taking credit for excellent work. While the expert perfects the craft, the networker perfects relationships with people who control resources. Nietzsche saw this pattern everywhere in his time. The most brilliant philosophers died poor, while mediocre aristocrats lived in luxury. The greatest artists struggled for recognition, while wealthy patrons took credit for supporting culture they barely understood. The hardest workers earn the least because they assume competence leads to compensation. They believe quality work speaks for itself. They think merit will be rewarded automatically. These assumptions are wrong. Merit without marketing is invisible. Competence without connections is worthless. Excellence without self-promotion is exploitation. The person who works 16 hours a day perfecting their craft will lose to the person who works 4 hours a day perfecting their pitch. The employee who solves every problem quietly will be passed over for promotion in favor of the employee who takes credit loudly. This is not fair. But fairness is not how money moves. Understanding why hard work does not equal wealth is the first step toward escaping the trap. Stop measuring your worth by how tired you are at the end of the day. Start measuring it by how much value you capture. From the value you create. Stop believing that wanting more money makes you greedy. Start understanding that not wanting money makes you dependent on people who have it. Stop accepting low pay because the work is meaningful. Start demanding high pay because meaningful work deserves meaningful compensation. The hardest workers earn the least because they never learned to think like owners instead of employees. They never realized that selling their time by the hour is the worst possible deal they could make. Rich people do not work harder. They work differently. They focus on systems that generate money without constant effort. They invest in assets that appreciate while they sleep. They build businesses that produce income whether they show up or not. Poor people trade time for money. Rich people trade money for time. Poor people work in the business. Rich people work on the business. Poor people think about paychecks. Rich people think about cash flow. The difference is not moral. It is mathematical. Success is not about working the hardest. It is about working the smartest on the most valuable problems for the people who can pay the most to solve them. The janitor works harder than the CEO, but the CEO controls resources the janitor needs. The factory worker produces more tangible value than the hedge fund manager. But the hedge fund manager controls capital the factory worker depends on. Power determines price. Leverage determines pay. Position determines profit. Nietzsche understood that life is not about justice. It is about power. Not about fairness, but about effectiveness. Not about what should happen, but about what does happen. The hardest workers earn the least because they operate in a fantasy world where effort equals reward. Meanwhile, the people who earn the most operate in the real world where results equal reward. If you want to change your financial situation, you must change your relationship with work itself. Stop trying to be the hardest worker. Start trying to be the most strategic worker. Stop competing on effort. Start competing on impact. Stop selling your time. Start selling your results. Stop being proud of how much you struggle. Start being proud of how much you earn. The next time someone tells you that money does not buy happiness, ask them why they are working so hard to get it. The next time someone praises your work ethic, ask them when your ethics will start paying your bills. The next time someone says the hardest workers deserve respect, remind them that respect without resources is just pretty words that pay no rent. You were not put on this earth to break your back making other people wealthy while staying poor yourself. If this video opened your eyes to how the game really works, subscribe now. We are not here to make you feel better about being broke. We are here to make you understand why you are broke so you can stop being broke. The hardest workers earn the least because they were taught to love their chains. Time to break them.